Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sitting here Sunday morning, Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, taking care of business against Wake Forest. Now, that's not the storyline. I think a lot of Miami Hurricane fans heading into this football game expected to win this football game. I think the biggest storyline coming out, this Miami Hurricanes defense, finally kind of showing up to the party. This is a big storyline, not just for the Miami Hurricane fans, but all of college football. We've said over the last couple of weeks, if this defense can play up to the standard that I think they're capable of playing, this is going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the country as you go into the postseason. This was probably the most complete defensive performance we've seen, maybe since the Florida Gators game, week one. I want to get into what we saw that changed for this Miami Hurricanes defense until we were both sitting there after maybe the first drive and a half, and we were like, did they just not get better at all? That first drive, they blow a coverage, give up a big score. Wake Forest is moving it on the second drive. After that Mish Powell pick six, they give up that special teams touchdown. After that, it was a dominant performance. Wake Forest in the last three quarters of this football game, I believe, had less than 90 total yards. Dominant performance from this Miami Hurricanes defense. And, Dill, that was one of the storylines. We're Michigan fans. We wanted our offense to get better. There just wasn't much hope because we don't have a good quarterback. We don't have elite playmakers on the outside. Our personnel is just not good enough to have a great offense. But for this Miami Hurricanes defense, you look at the defense and say, specifically in the front seven, we know you got the guys. We know this defense can be good. When are they going to start playing good? We saw that the last three quarters of this football game. What changed? That's what we're going to get into now. Before we get into it, as always, to the Miami Hurricane fans, can't thank y'all enough. It's been a blast talking this team, the goods and the bads, over the last couple weeks. Y'all have shown a ton of support to the boys. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear how the Miami Hurricane fans are feeling from a confidence standpoint going to that postseason stretch. This is why Miami's gotten so active on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal. Like, to put yourself in this position and then go make some noise in the month of December. We're about to see if this Miami Hurricanes team can do that. Dill, let's focus in on the defense, right? That's the big storyline. We knew this offense would move the football against Wake Forest. From a defensive perspective, what kind of changed to you for this Miami Hurricanes defense?
I mean, there is an element, frankly, of them just letting their front four line up in more of a base defense and just go try to take games over. Because I do feel like that was a dominant performance from that
Yes.
defensive line. I frankly don't think we've seen enough of them. And that's like probably a two-pronged thing. I think they have been trying to be too creative up front with their alignment in that front seven, but also just guys not playing gap disciplined football. Like, you look at the way Tyler Barron's played at moments, the way their defensive tackles have played at moments, just like giving up big monster creases. And I thought in this game against Wake Forest, you didn't really see a whole lot of that. I thought their front four just kind of like, okay, play a basic vanilla brand of defense and go try to dominate. I think they have the players to do that. I'm a little surprised they haven't done it more this year. I'm be interested to see if they use it more.
That was kind of my story too, is that they simplified things. I feel like they were just trying to do too much the last couple of weeks before that bye. And when you try to do too much, like there's that fine line you got to walk between, hey, we want to throw a lot of different looks at the opposing offense and try to confuse the opposing quarterback, but you don't want to confuse your own team. And like at points, we've seen this Miami Hurricanes defense look utterly confused out there, not knowing what they were doing. I thought they simplified a lot of things. And yeah, they brought some pressure. They actually brought a lot of pressure in the second half, but they weren't trying to be super sneaky about it. Like, when they showed pressure, they brought pressure. When they showed coverage, they brought coverage. It wasn't a bunch, hey, we're going to mug the line of scrimmage, then we're going to drop back into some deep zone coverage. It was pretty much what you see is what you're going to get. And I thought it allowed this Miami Hurricanes defense, I thought it allowed the playmakers to just play a little bit more free. I think the second storyline is you did the small stuff right, and I think that's a direct correlation between it. We're going to simplify what we're doing, and now we're going to do the small stuff right. After that one blown coverage, you didn't really blow any coverages. I think secondly, you tackled. You only, 4 missed tackles all game for the Miami Hurricanes. That's been a massive problem for Miami, specifically in that front seven, specifically from the linebackers. Dill, big storyline, arguably the biggest storyline coming out of this football game. Was that the closest we've seen Kiko to his 2023 self? If you get that, I mean, you take a look at Kiko at that linebacker spot. That was in 2023 playing like an All-American. He was a first-team All-ACC linebacker, quite frankly, All-American caliber linebacker. And then in 2024, I mean, at times, quite frankly, it's been a liability out there. I thought Kiko was great in this football game. And if you get the 2023 version of Kiko going into the postseason again, that makes this defense much, much better.
Because at the end of the day, we can talk scheme and all those other things. At the end of the day, you need your big dogs to play really good
Yeah.
football. Like you need
Yeah.
Ruben Bain to play really good. You need Kiko Mauino to play really good. You need Mish Powell to play good. Like those guys who kind of are the guys on those
Yeah.
sides or their respective units. I thought Porter Jr. probably played his best game
Yes,
this
he
year.
did.
You talk another guy who like has had some moments where you knew he was going to need to step up, be a big time corner for this team, just given where they are. OJ Frederic has kind of emerged and done his thing and locked up one side. You probably need to get Porter going on the other side to kind of round out that secondary. I thought he played a really nice game yesterday.
I thought Jalen Alderman continues to play good. You know, there weren't a lot of good players, a lot of good defensive players against Georgia Tech. Jalen Alderman was one of them. Thought he had another really nice performance again. And so you're trying to figure. And again, I think one of the things you're trying to do heading into the month of December is what's the best version of us? Like who's on the field gives us the best version of this defense, and it's becoming like Jalen Alderman when he's on the football field is giving Miami some really, really good reps. And I think the last thing, negative plays. You actually said the one thing I had. Your best players were being your best players. That's big storyline. Sometimes we can talk scheme all you want. You got to have your guys make plays. They did. Negative plays. 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. That's what we should be seeing on a daily or every Saturday basis for this Miami Hurricanes defense. You look at that defensive line, it is a bunch of dudes that will be playing on Sundays over the next couple of years. That needs to be a unit. That if Miami is going to be dangerous over the next couple of weeks, they got to be creating a ton of negative plays. 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, consistently getting Wake Forest behind the chains, creating those favorable situations for that defense. It's what you want it to look like. That's what Miami did. So it wasn't like, it was almost like we're talking about what changed for Miami. It was less scheme. It was nothing special. It was just your players playing really good football, your best players, and just kind of simplifying this defense and allowing your guys to go out and make plays. If you can do that, this defense is going to be really, really good towards the back half of the year. I'm really pumped up for this Cuse game next Saturday because that's a passing attack that's going to challenge you, and they probably got a little bit of a better personnel than Wake Forest. The quick note on the offense, leaning on the run, baby. You know, we've talked about this at times during the year, and it's always been really hard to be critical of this Miami Hurricanes offense because they've been so good. And they were I mean, you got to finish some more drives in the red zone, but still, you scored 42 points, and I'd probably give them a B grade. They're leaning on the run game. Mark Fletcher, Damian Martinez, Jordan Lyle every time he's on the football field, he becomes a guy. It's like, I think we need to see more Jordan Lyle. He has that, a little bit more of that game-breaking dynamic to the rushing attack, leaning on the run game, kind of sustaining drives, keeping your defense off the football field. That's something. One of the things that kind of stands out to me is Miami can win that way too. They don't have to just win in a shootout for Cam Ward. Running the football, it kind of fired me up. I don't think it's a coincidence that you ran the football, you kept the opposing offense off the field, and all of a sudden your defense playing better football too.
Yeah, and I also think again you can avoid bad situations. It didn't feel like they ended up in 3rd and longs and 2nd and longs a whole lot in this game. Like
No,
I feel like that has been an issue at times. And again, they've been able to pull rabbits out enough because Cam Ward and those receivers are individually good enough players to kind of make up for maybe those type of mistakes. But if you just hammer the ball, like they can do it. Their offensive line, I thought, looked really good, especially
awesome.
in the interior, like moving guys around, opening up big holes. And then you obviously have your running backs running hard, like Damian Martinez start that game really, really dominant. Then you saw Jordan Lyle come in. You obviously saw Fletcher a little bit more in the second half. So they're deep, they're physical. I think, again, like it's really hard, I think, to deal with this Miami team if they can avoid getting too one-dimensional. And again,
Yeah.
like, you still want to throw the ball. I'm not saying like you go be like Michigan from 2023. Like, you still want the ball in the air. Your wide receivers, tight ends are too good to kind of take them out of the game. But if you're balanced, I mean, you just, again, you stay out of second and long, stay out of third and long, and then you can hit big plays still
All
off of it. Like, you can be really dynamic.
all the best offenses in the country are multidimensional. And it's a tricky conversation because this passing attack is so good. Cam Ward's playing such good football. To really make this offense hard to deal with, start running the football a little bit more too, and attack teams from a lot of different ways. And I wonder if we saw a little bit of a recipe come out, Dale. All right, Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher, give them a healthy dose of those two cats early, and then Jordan Lyle, that kind of game breaker. Jordan Lyle's so good. I think Jordan Lyle, he's going to be in that conversation, some of the better Miami Hurricane running backs when he kind of grows up and gets a little bit older. Markel Bell really good at left tackle. I wonder if we find they've been rotating, so like they give Jalen Rivers at left tackle, then kick him into guard and have Markel Bell play. I wonder if they just try to find a 5-man rotation and stick with it. And again, it's not been a problem, so I'm not going to criticize it, but I don't know if I want to have players moving positions on the offensive line throughout a football game. It's one thing to just maybe rotate 2 players at one position and maybe keep them fresh, or maybe someone's dealing with an injury. But as you get into some of these bigger football games that you're going to be playing down the stretch, I wonder if you see them try to stick with, hey, this is our starting 5. We're going to rock with our starting 5. Really complete performance from Miami. I think that's the whole point of it. And this defense playing some good football. It looks like it's going to be a Miami SMU ACC championship game. Obviously, you don't want to look over Syracuse. It's going to be a fun one. 2 of the best offenses in the country. If Miami's defense can create negative plays and play the way they did today, I think it puts them in a really good spot to be extremely competitive with just about any team in the country. Let's be quite frank. Look at the SEC. It's gettable. I think we all know that. I'm not saying the ACC is a great conference this year, but Miami's, in my mind, clearly the best team in this conference. That SEC looking gettable. Miami's got to be licking their chops. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.